Hello, I'm glad you're here. This is Jennifer McGuire. Today I thought I'd show you how I go about putting together a set of note cards to give as a gift. I put my note card sets together a little bit different than most, so I'm hoping this is helpful to you. Now, this is something I do for my mom every Christmas. Her birthday's Christmas Eve, so she gets 2 sets of note cards, and I also do this for teachers. I make a bunch of cards and leave the sentiment off, and then include a bunch of sentiments in the set that they can stick on so they can use whatever sentiment will work for a particular occasion. I also include everything they need to mail the cards. Now we'll go through creating one set of note cards, and then at the end I'll share an idea for a second and a third. When I create my sets of cards, I like to have a theme to them, a particular design, but I change up the colors on them. You could use any products you may have on hand, anything at all. Think about the recipient who's going to get the set of cards. I decided to use the new Altenew Gilded Rose. My mom loves flowers. Now, the Gilded Rose has a stencil set and a hot foil plate available. They can be used together or separately. If you do not want to do foiling, you can use the stencils alone, and they create really large, beautiful layered flowers very quickly. I like that they're large so they'll fill up the whole card, so it won't take long to do. Now, since I plan to be doing foiling, I'm using Hammermill 100-pound cardstock. I'll link below to the one that I like. This is super smooth and great for using with hot foil. Now, this is the Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil rolls. I'll be using the Aura and the glittery Aura. They're the two that you see here, and I'll link them below. These are beautiful, like iridescent gold that really catch the light nicely, and you'll see them in action in the video. Now again, if you don't want to hot foil, you could definitely skip this foiling part and just move ahead to the stencil part. So I'm cutting a piece of one of the gold foils to be a little bit bigger than the size of the rose. And I'll take one of these pieces of cardstock, which are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm trimming a little bit of the excess around the edge. I like to keep these for little small flowers or sentiments that I may do in the future. Now I am positioning on top of our paper our hot foil and our hot foil plate. I make sure that the foil is touching the plate, so the plate and the pretty side of the foil are kissing. Once I'm happy with the placement on my white cardstock piece, I will put some Easy C tape or any temporary tape to hold it in place so it doesn't shift when I take it to my Glimmer machine. I will place all of this onto the warm gray portion of my Spellbinders Glimmer machine, which I let heat up already. I'll put that down along with the green shim, a cardstock shim, and the clear plate that comes with the Glimmer machine. I will then push the timer button. When the timer button stops flashing, which is just a minute or so, I will take it over to my die cut machine. So once that button is done flashing, it's ready to go, so the heat is applied to the hot foil plate, I just slide out all of the platform and plates and take it directly to my Spellbinders die cut machine, and then I'll run it back and forth slowly. So the Glimmer machine provides the heat, the die cut machine provides the pressure, and this will give us beautiful foil results. You could use any of the foil machines out there. You just want to make sure you get one that works with whatever particular die cut machine you have. Now I can remove this carefully, then just take off the foil and look at that beautiful rose with the nice shine to it. I will link here in the top right to another video I've done with the Glimmer machine where I go into great detail on how it works, if you would like to see more. Okay, now it's time to add ink to these flowers, and this is super easy to do. I have my Waffle flower stencil mat, which is what I like to do my stenciling on. I'm taking the first of the layering stencils for the Gilded Rose. This one has the most open area, and I'm placing it on top. I will be using Altenew Crisp Dye Ink because the colors are really beautiful, and I will list below in my YouTube description the particular colors I used for each rose. I also have my ink stand that holds my ink pad and keeps it steady while I grab the ink with an ink blending tool. I'm using a few different size ink blending tools today. This is the largest from Altenew because I have such a large open area. I'm starting with the lightest color of ink and applying it to the background with a light hand. I wanted like a medium color of rose, not too bright, not too soft. You could do whatever you want here. If you want it to be bold, you could definitely do that. I then wipe off the excess because some of that ink might be on top of the foil, but it easily wipes off and you don't have to worry about it coming off later. The foil will stay nice and shiny. Now I'm moving on to the next stencil. This one will provide some of the details. This time I'm using the medium color ink, which happens to be the fuchsia, and applying that with the smaller ink blending tool since the openings are smaller. I like to use multiple size inking tools because I find it helpful, but it is not necessary. You could use one size for everything if that's what you prefer. Now we have the third stencil. The third stencil actually has the last 2 layers for the roses. I'm lining up the first one, which has the larger openings of the 2. And I like to use tape to hold it in place to make sure it doesn't move as I ink. Now I'm coming in with the third darkest ink color. So I started with lightest, medium, dark here, and then we'll finish it with very dark in a moment. You could use one ink and apply very light over the first stencil opening, then light over the second, medium over the third, and dark amount, heavy amount over the last. So you could do this with one color, just varying how much ink you put down each time. However, since I have the multiple ink colors that work great together with Altenew, I'm just going to go ahead and use them. Now here I am with Razzleberry, which is the darkest, and applying that to the smallest layering areas, and check that out. So beautiful. Now I did feel like the first background, the biggest one, was a little too light. I wanted to make that a little more intense, so I'm just applying a little bit more of the light ink over the first stencil, the most open one. And there, I like the results of that better, and there we have our pink rose. And check this out. Look at that sharp foil outline along with the pink ink. I just love it. Now that I know how I want my rose to be positioned, I did the same foiling process on 12 panels. However, I did switch to the sparkly gold foil that I showed you earlier. I thought that would catch the light even more. So I did 2 each of several different color families for my set. I did 2 pink, 2 red, yellow, teal, blue, and purple. So I ended up with 12 cards altogether. I actually went through and did the first layer of ink on all the cards with the first stencil. Then I came in with the second layer of the stencil and did that on all the panels. Whatever seems fastest for you. And once you know it, you'll have 12 inked panels, all with that great foil edge. So once those are done, it's time to turn them into note cards. So I started with cardstock that was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I decided I wanted to trim that down a bit so that I could add them onto a colored card. I usually like to start with a full card panel whenever I'm stamping or inking, so I have the option of covering the entire card or trimming a bit down. Again, I will provide a list of the colors I used for each of the roses in my description below. Next, I cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch side folding note cards, and I chose colors of cardstock that matched the inks I used. So now I have that little bit of color showing around the outside edge. I used some Gina K Connect liquid adhesive to quickly add our inked panels right to the front of each of the note cards. So after finishing this, I have 12 cards that need sentiments. I will add the word hello to each of these cards a little bit later, but I also want to provide the recipient with a bunch of sentiment strip stickers that they can pick and choose from and add to their card when they're ready to send it. I include more than enough of the sentiment strips with a variety of occasions from birthday to sympathy and more. That way it makes the card set even more valuable to them because they can look for the greeting they need. If you look closely at these sentiment strips, they have gold foil around the outside edge, which makes them extra special, and it's not hard to do. I used the new Altenew Sentiment Banner set. Now there is a hot foil plate and a die set that line up together. You can buy them together or separate. Now the die alone you can use to cut out nice sentiment strips of many sizes with the little V ends, but I decided to use it along with the hot foil plate. So I have a piece of the Hammermill cardstock, and I'm putting a piece of tape on the edge to kind of create a hinge between the cardstock and the hot foil plate. I will now take a piece of the same foil I used earlier and slide it underneath there, making sure the pretty side of the foil touches the pretty side of the plate. I will trim off that little extra bit that's hanging out the side there because I can use that along with a sentiment hot foil plate later on. Now I put the plate backside against the hot portion of the Glimmer machine and I push the button, When the timer is done, I can take it right out and run it through my die cut machine back and forth slowly. So the foil machine applies the heat, the die cut machine provides the pressure, and this is a beautiful foil result that won't rub off. Okay, so now I can peel it all apart and you can see the beautiful foiled sentiment strips we have. Now I'll take that die that coordinates and line it up. And what this does is it cuts it out the sentiment strip so there's a foil edge around it. And it also cuts out a few stars that you can use as accents too. It's very easy to line up by looking through the openings, and I like to tape it in place, run it through my die cut machine, and look at all the sentiment strips you have ready to go. Now you could use these with any sentiments you have on hand. Look through your stamp sets. A lot of stamp sets have small sentiments that would fit nicely in here. I chose to use the Altenew Sentiment Strips 1 set and Sentiment Strips 2 set. I use these a lot in videos, and between the two you have pretty much any occasion you would want, so there's a good variety to use for this note card set. Now I'm using my MISTI stamping tool to save some time, but you could use an acrylic block. I have a bunch of my foiled sentiment strips ready to go. It's now time to stamp on them. I have a piece of blue cardstock that I taped into my MISTI stamping tool, which is just a rig that makes it easy for me to tape temporarily one of my sentiment strips right up against the edge, and I know it'll be straight. And I can put each of my strips in that same spot, which you see that tape there, so I can stamp the sentiment on multiple strips. So there I lined up Thinking of You, and I'm stamping it with black ink. Then I can remove that sentiment strip and put another one in and stamp Thinking of You on it also. I just find it easier to put this blue piece in here to put my sentiment strip up against each time instead of trying to put it up against the edge of the MISTI, which is a little bit harder when you're trying to line up a stamp, when you're trying to look through it to get the stamp just right. So this worked really well, and I was able to switch out the sentiment and stamp lots of sentiments on lots of strips. I think I did 20 different sentiment choices so that the recipient could choose whatever they want. I didn't want them to run out of one occasion if they needed more of that. Now notice all of these sentiment strips are different lengths. I like that those sentiment banner hot foil plates and dies have different lengths available. However, I'm stamping over onto the left-hand side on each of these, and I'll be cutting off the right-hand side. You'll see that in a moment. So after I stamped all of my sentiment strips, I have another piece of white cardstock that I'm covering with an Altenew adhesive sheet. This is my favorite adhesive sheet now. It's great for die cutting. And I'll cut that into smaller pieces. I will then use the sentiment strip banner die to cut from these. So what I'll have is white cardstock with adhesive on the back, and when we cut with the banner die, we'll end up with banners that have adhesive on the back. This shows you what these banners look like when they're die cut without the foiling. They work great too. So now this white sentiment strip is pretty much a sticker, right? It has adhesive on the back. I'm going to glue our foiled and stamped sentiment strip on top of that. So now we have a layered sentiment strip that has the foil and stamping on the front, and on the back is a sticker with release paper that will allow the recipient to peel it off and add it to their card. I am cutting that right-hand side off because I plan to put it right up against the edge of our note card. So I did this with all of my sentiment strips, just making sure that they have the adhesive on the back and the stamp and foil on the front. So now we have all these foil and stamped sentiment strip stickers, and these are great to add into our note card set. Now I did create a 13th card which has a pink rose on it. This is the card that I'm going to write a message in to give to the person inside the card set. Inside of this card, I will explain that they can choose whatever sentiment they want and stick it onto their note card, just like I do on the front of this card. So on this one, I'm gluing the Altenew Fancy Hello die cut in white. And then right below it, I have my sentiment strip. I'm going to remove the release paper from the back of it and stick it right there below Hello up against the edge of the note card. So again, inside this card, I'm going to have a message for the recipient and then also explain how there are a bunch of sentiments that they can choose and add to the note cards themselves, and to just do it like I did on the front of this card. So off screen, I die cut a bunch of the fancy Hello die from Altenew with white cardstock. I did glue 2 white die cuts together for each card, and I'm just adding a hello onto each of our 12 note cards. Notice there is a little room under there to add a sentiment strip, although I'm not adding them. So I just glue that down and then I flip it over and cut the little excess that's hanging off on the side. So these cards could be as is. They don't need to add the sentiment strip, but it'll really make it pop when they do. I did also cut a piece of white cardstock to put in the inside for a nice finishing touch, and I have matching envelopes for each of the cards. I get my matching envelopes from Simon Says Stamp and Gina K Designs. I personally like to put each note card with the matching envelope into a card sleeve. This helps to protect the cards when they're in the canvas bag together. I always put my completed cards in these sleeves. When I have them at home, I recycle the sleeve several times, but when giving a note card set, I just feel it helps to protect it and gives a really nice professional look. I will link below to the particular card sleeves that I like to use for A2 cards like this, which are 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Now before I put all of these in sleeves, I wanted to show you how the different colors turned out. So here are the peach ones. You saw the pink ones before. The peach ones I did pretty light because I love that soft peach color. The yellow I think turned out to be my favorite with yellows and oranges, and I think my mom will like that too as she also likes yellow. Then we have the 2 pool colored ones. I decided not to do green roses. You definitely could if you wanted, but I thought the pool would be a fun surprise. And again, I did put a white cardstock piece inside each of these. Then we have the blues and the purples. Now in my note card set, I have all of these cards with the matching envelopes, and I also have a little baggie or card sleeve that I've filled with other things you need to mail those cards. So I pre-print address labels for whoever I'm giving these cards to. So I would put my mom's address on there or the teacher's address so they don't have to worry about it. I also have postage, and I just try to find some postage stamps that have a pretty color scheme that looks nice with our cards. Also in there, I have all of our sentiment strip stickers that we've foiled and stamped. I have a fancy pen, I'll link to the ones that I like below, and a roll of washi tape. Altenew has a lot of great washi tapes. I just like to include that to seal the envelope. Now I prefer to put my note card sets and all the accessories in a zipper gift bag. You could put them in a clear box or in a gift bag, but I like the reusable zipper bags because they can hold a lot or little, as many cards as you want. You can also reuse this when the recipient sends all the cards out. Now the polka dot ones I'll link to below. These are Avery Elle clear pockets. Simon Says Stamp has some too. I'll link to those. But what I'm using today and what I've used a lot in the past is this canvas zipper pouch. I like it because it's long, so I can put some cards in kind of towards one side and then some cards in kind of over to the other side, and there's plenty of room in there. I can easily add all the other goodies inside, including my handmade card where I write my personal message. If you wanted to, you could stamp or stitch or decorate the canvas bag or create a little tag that hangs off of it. I'll probably add a tag to it later, but I'm not sure yet what I want to do. Now this is a great gift to give for the holidays, especially if you're looking to save money. Use the supplies that you have to create cards to give to someone. It has such incredible value to it, and I bet people would love it. Now before we go, I wanted to show you a card design that I plan to make a set out of. I didn't have time to do it in today's video, but I wanted to show you the design, and all I need to do is make a bunch more in different color schemes. I find stencils are great for making multiples, so I'm using this new Altenew stencil set. There are 3 stencils included in the set. There are coordinating dies available to go with it if you want. Now the stencils are really easy to line up. They even put little engravings on it to help you line up the stem with the different flowers. Now I like layering stencil sets because they're not that expensive and can be used in many ways. You could use glitter gel on these, embossing powder, anything you want. Now there is a vase included in the stencil, but I did skip that today. So I have one of the stencils on top of a piece of white cardstock, and I'm just doing some basic inking over it. I plan to make flowers in all of the same color schemes I had from earlier. And by the way, those color schemes I figured out in one of my last videos. I'll link to it up here in the top right, but in that video I suggested coming up with some color combos that work well for you and writing them down. Well, today I referred back to those and it saved me a ton of time. So first I inked up the stencil with some greens. This is the Shadow Creek color. And then I'm moving on to the flowers. These are very easy to line up because there is a guide that comes with the stencil set. But the stencil set also has engraved lines to help you out. So I'm doing the first flower, and this is in the coral berry color. Now this, I'm putting down a medium shade here. There are only 2 layers to each flowers, but I'm going to fake it and make it look like more here in a moment. I then moved on to the second flower, which is also on the stencil, and inked that the same way. Now I'll do the leaves. I just want to make sure I get everything placed right before I do the additional layers. So this time I am using the Firefly green color and applying green over the most open areas of the green layering. And this is very easy to line up in a very forgiving format too. For me, this is a super fast way of doing coloring and creating a bunch of cards at once. If I would have stamped these, it would have taken me a little bit longer, not too bad. But if I would have colored these by hand, it would have taken a long time. So now I'm coming in with the darker green ink and adding the second layer of the leaves. Then we'll move on to the second layer of the flowers. For that, I'm using the Heartbeat color and applying that over the second layer. Then I come in with a slightly darker red, and then I apply that just towards like the center of that layer. I feel like that makes that center pop even more and really just creates a little more look of dimension. Now, since this is pretty simple, I thought I'd step it up and add some interest by using an embossing folder over our inking. This is the new Altenew Dotty Circles embossing folder, and I'm just putting that entire panel into the folder, putting it on my Spellbinders Platinum platform, then one cutting plate on top, and I'll run that through. And look at this fun texture it does to our inked panel. I think it's fun and a great way to make this a little more special without taking up too much time. I added the panel onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch side folding coral note card. And then I added a black hello sentiment. I once again used the Altenew Fancy Hello die and cut twice from black cardstock and glued that together and added it to the front of our card. Here you can see the beautiful texture. No need to add any embellishments. I decided not to do any sentiment strips on this particular note card set. Instead, I will just make a set of hello cards in lots of different colors. So if you want to skip that part of adding the additional sentiment strips, you definitely can, and just make them all hello. Because after all, she could write happy birthday or whatever she wants on the inside. So I'm hoping this weekend that I have time to make probably 20 of these for a note card set. Now, before we go, I wanted to share one more idea. I don't have time to create the cards, but I thought this set would be great for a note card set too, so I wanted to talk to you about it. This is the new Sparkle Bright set from Altenew. There is a stamp set, a die, and a hot foil plate. Now, the process I would go through is to foil the hot foil plate with gold onto lots of the white cardstock. Then over that, I would stamp the outline floral image. Then over that, I would stamp the layering images. You can see there are 2 layers to stamp on the flower, and then the leaves there at the bottom that you can stamp right on top. Then I would use the coordinating die to cut it out, and I can add those onto cards easily. So I would again do a rainbow set where each one is a different color, or I would do 2 or 3 of the same color. Now, these guides always show how to do the stamp layering, but it also gives you these ideas like this one here that shows what it looks like if you just do the stamping of the outline and then the stamping of the layers, but skip the foil. But what I really think looks cool is this one over on the right. Check that out. Say you did the foiling in gold, then did gold heat embossing with the outline with it on bright colored paper. That would be really cool too. So I could do 2 sets from this. One that's like that with all the cardstock different colors and just doing gold heat embossing and gold foiling. And then I can do another set of note cards where I do the stamping with the stamp layering in all different colors. So look at the products you have and think about how you can stretch them to make multiples to create a gift card set that you can give to someone as a holiday gift. And the best part is you get the joy of creating the set and the joy of giving it as a gift. then the recipient gets the joy of passing those cards on to others. It's just a great way to get that share handmade kindness going. So if you're interested in the supplies I use, they are linked below in my YouTube description. You can also head to my blog for much more information. I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again very soon.